Hello, welcome to Rebel Nation alongside UNLV beat writer Mark Anderson. I am just merely Bryan Salmond. Now, Mark, last week we talked about the Rebels going into the game with Prairie View A&M that they needed to make a statement.
Right.
Statement made, 46-17 in the win against the Panthers. What do you think about that game? I mean, they come out and do exactly what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, UNLV didn't even play all that great a game in a lot of ways, and they still won easily. A lot of it was the opponent. The opponent handed them some great opportunities, but they took advantage. And and you could say, look who they played, but UNLV struggled against these teams in the past, and so the back-to-back weeks, UTEP the week before, to win, convincingly both times. That's what they had to do, and it puts them on the track to make a bowl game. They still have work to do.
They do,
but at least now they, you can see that. All right, if they keep playing like this, they got a good shot at it.
All right, now you talked to Armani Rogers, of course, the quarterback who set a record at UNLV for quarterbacks rushing touchdowns. He had 4, also tied a record for any player with rushing touchdowns. Here's his interview after the game, talking about the record that he set.
It's a good thing to have in your back pocket, but that's not things that I look forward to, or I just go out there and play football, and if I break a couple records while doing it, it's a good thing to do.
Now, you just spoke to me off camera about Armani talking about that record. What surprised you about that?
That he actually kind of smiled and laughed about it, because usually Armani's very poker face in interviews. You don't know if he's feeling good or bad. I mean, and that's
a good thing for a quarterback.
So your starting quarterback, that's what you want, right? Yeah. But so you can tell he's feeling pretty good after the game. So that was, I think, and athletes also often talk about how records don't mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
I
mean, we're all human. Like, stop with that.
And so that was a pretty honest moment in his part.
All right. And I mean, what do you think about how he's playing so far this season? I mean, he's rushing the ball very well. The last few games, he's been over 100 yards. Lexington Thomas has been rushing the ball very well as well. I mean, the UNLV running game, they absolutely have an identity on that team now, don't they?
They do, and they're looking at maybe having the first time in school history possibly 2 1,000-yard backs in the same season. So, it's Armani's completion percentage, I know, is going to be an ongoing topic, but he makes so many plays with his feet, and he's so tough to tackle. And of course, as you mentioned, Lexington Thomas is such a great runner. And Lexington had 124 quiet yards because you're used to seeing him break like a 50-yard gain, and he didn't have that. Yeah. But it was just 4 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. It was constant. 30 carries, which Tony Sanchez after the game's like, you don't really want him carrying the ball 30 times. Yeah. But sometimes you're going to have those games. But yeah, I think Armani's throws the ball well enough with that running game. He completes enough passes. He makes a decent number of big plays of the passing game because he's got such a strong arm. So I don't think he needs to be a 65% passer, but if he can get up to high 50s, I think that's fine.
All right. We'll kind of take a look at some of the stats from that game, Armani. A name that comes to mind when I think of Armani Rogers, the way that he plays this game, his stats, if you look at 11 for 21, 130 yards, not huge, but he did have the 122 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. How about Jalen Hurts? That kind of comes to mind. I mean, the fact that he was such a good runner for Alabama, the quarterback who's no longer the starter, he didn't throw the ball all that well, but he made throws that he needed to make in order to get touchdowns, but he rushed the ball extremely well. That kind of puts his image in my head, but 46-17 was the score. They're 2-1. What do you think about the Jalen Hurts analogy?
I never thought of that, but it makes sense. Yeah, it really does. I mean, that's one reason why, or the major reason Jalen Hurts doesn't have a starting job anymore is he couldn't throw the ball.
And they got someone who can really throw the ball.
Who's just as athletic. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I might even think Armani's a little bit better passer.
Probably.
He's got a stronger arm. Armani can throw. One thing he does really well is throw the deep ball on target. He's really good at throwing a good deep pass. His problem is the intermediate stuff.
If you take a look at the matchup board with this game with Arkansas State, again, they're 2-1 coming into the season. The game is at 4 p.m. It is in Arkansas. Again, Arkansas State played against Alabama in Alabama, so as far as like playing against a very good team in a crazy environment, that's not going to be something that they're going to, have an issue with, especially playing a Division I team that's UNLV, who's just 2-1 right now. But with all this being said, the ridiculousness that I just said, UNLV, it's a big game and it's a tough game for them, and there's no way that UNLV is overlooking this Arkansas State team.
Oh no, they realize how good this team is. Yeah. No, this is a big game for UNLV. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on the Rebels because if they lose, I mean, people were kind of figuring they'd be 2-2 anyway, and their bowl hopes are still very much alive. If they win, though, this is where it's a big opportunity for them. If they win, they're 3-1, halfway to bowl eligibility.
That's true.
Taking momentum into the conference play. You got to really like their chances at that point. And they make a statement that not only are they competing for a bowl if they win, maybe they're competing for that West title in the conference. I don't think they're quite there yet to compete for the West title. But if they do win this game, they'll at least be in the conversation.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, confidence is something that you need when you're playing sports. You go down there and beat that team. Sometimes teams play over their level. You know, they go down and beat Arkansas State in Arkansas. Like, okay, we're a good team. We can actually compete for the Mountain West. They may start believing that and then actually having a good season. But again, you're looking at me like, Bryan, don't put the cart before the horse.
Well, but you can look back to Fresno State from last season.
Yeah.
A year before that, what winless or maybe won one game.
Bad.
You know, biggest turnaround I think in college football last season. They won the West Division, so they played for the Mountain West title game. So it's not like it can't be done. Yeah. And we're not talking SEC West here.
We're not.
So as good as San Diego State and Fresno State are, you know, those are. I mean, don't forget UNLV won at Fresno State last season. So it's possible that UNLV can compete this season. I just think they, you know, let's see how they do this weekend first.
I got you. You don't want to get folks and their hopes up on UNLV. And actually, if you want to read about what Mark has to say about UNLV in their last game versus Prairie View A&M, go ahead and go to reviewjournal.com. He has some great work on there, the 3 takeaways from the game, which I read, and it really put in perspective what UNLV did in the game versus Prairie View. The fact that they were up, 20-0, and then, was it 30?
34-0 at halftime.
Yeah, 34-0 at half. I'm like, wow. Yeah. I mean, UNLV, they really came out and put it on them, and then obviously they put it in cruise control and they gave up some points in that game. But, I mean, that's a feather in their cap moving forward with Arkansas State. For Mark Anderson, the Rebel beat writer, I'm Bryan Salmond for Rebel Nation, folks. See you next time.